Captain Lee Dongwook stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony and watched the massive space station grow larger on the screen. Nexus Station was huge, bigger than most moons. Ships from 47 different worlds were docked there, their strange shapes making a colorful pattern against the dark metal of the station. "Sir, we're getting clearance to dock," said his communications officer. "Bay 17 as planned." "Good," Lee said. He straightened his blue uniform and checked his watch. "Signal Ambassador Park that we'll be ready for the ceremony in 2 hours." Today was special. The galaxy was celebrating 800 years of peace. 800 years since the last big war ended, and the sacred accords were signed. 800 years since different alien species agreed to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Humans had been part of this peace for only 60 years, but they had made their mark. Other species called them the peaceful mediators. When two alien races had a fight, they called humans to help fix it. When trade deals went bad, humans found fair solutions. When old enemies wanted to make peace, humans showed them how. Lee was proud of this reputation. Earth had learned from its violent past. The old days of human wars were over. Now they were known across the galaxy as the species that chose talking over fighting. "Captain," came a voice behind him. Dr. Kim Tae-ho walked onto the bridge carrying his data pad. The scientist looked worried, which was unusual. Kim was normally calm and happy. "What is it, Doctor?" Kim looked around the bridge, then moved closer to Lee. "Sir, I need to show you something. My research team has been tracking shipping patterns across the galaxy. We found something strange." Lee took the data pad. Numbers and star charts filled the screen. "What am I looking at?" "Vorthak trade routes, sir. They've been changing over the past 6 months. More ships, bigger ships, all moving toward the outer rim sectors. They say it's for new mining operations, but you don't think so?" Kim shook his head. "The energy signatures are wrong. These aren't cargo ships, Captain. They're moving like military vessels, and there are thousands of them." Lee studied the data more carefully. The Vorthak were a warrior species, but they had signed the sacred accords like everyone else. They had been peaceful for decades. Maybe they're just being careful about pirates in those sectors. That's what I thought at first. But look at this. Kim touched the screen, bringing up a new display. "We've also detected unusual communication patterns, coded transmissions on military frequencies, and their ambassador has been asking strange questions about human defense capabilities." Before Lee could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Lee to the docking bay. Ambassador Park has arrived." Lee handed the data pad back to Kim. "Present this to the council tomorrow. If there's something to worry about, they'll know what to do." "Sir, I tried to get a meeting with the council last month. They said my concerns were unsubstantiated fears and that the Vorthak would never break the accords. Then present better evidence. Until then, we have a celebration to attend." The docking bay was busy with activity. Ambassador Park So-min walked up the ramp from her shuttle, followed by her staff. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but everyone in the galaxy knew her name. She had stopped 3 wars and helped create the current trade agreements that kept dozens of species happy. "Captain Lee," she said with a smile. "Ready for the big party?" "Yes, ma'am." Though Dr. Kim has some concerns about Vorthak activity that he wants to discuss with the council. Park's smile faded slightly. "The Vorthak issue again?" "I spoke with their ambassador last week. He assured me their increased shipping is purely commercial. They're expanding their mining operations in the Keth sector." Dr. Kim thinks otherwise. Dr. Kim is a good scientist, but he sees military threats everywhere. The Vorthak have been model citizens for decades. They even helped us solve the border dispute between the Althari and the Nexian Consortium last year. Lee nodded, but he could see Kim frowning behind the ambassador. The scientist clearly wasn't convinced. The ceremony hall was enormous. Representatives from every member species sat in sections arranged by their homeworld's position in the galaxy. Humans occupied a small section near the middle, reflecting their relatively recent membership in the galactic community. The Supreme Chancellor, an ancient being from the first species to join the Accords, stood at the center podium. His voice, translated into dozens of languages simultaneously, filled the hall. 800 years ago, our ancestors chose cooperation over conflict. They chose trade over war. They chose peace over power. Today we celebrate not just survival, but prosperity. Applause filled the hall. Lee clapped along, but noticed that Dr. Kim was checking his datapad instead of listening. The ceremony continued for hours. Species after species spoke about the benefits of peace. Trade numbers were shared. Scientific discoveries were announced. Cultural exchanges were celebrated. When it was Ambassador Park's turn to speak, she walked to the podium with quiet confidence. 60 years ago, humanity was invited to join this great community, she began. We came not as conquerors but as students. We learned from your wisdom. We adopted your peaceful ways. We put aside the violent history of our homeworld and chose to build instead of destroy. More applause. Lee felt proud hearing those words. Humans had really changed. The old Earth Wars were history lessons now. Modern humans solved problems with science, diplomacy, and trade. But our commitment to peace doesn't make us weak, Park continued. It makes us strong. Strong enough to stand between enemies and help them become friends. Strong enough to choose the harder path of understanding over the easier path of conflict. As the ceremony ended, beings from different species mingled in the Great Hall. Lee watched Park speak with various ambassadors. She looked comfortable here, respected by everyone. Dr. Kim appeared at Lee's side again. Captain, I just received an urgent message from our monitoring station at Kepler Station. They're detecting massive energy buildups in Vorthak space. Something big is happening. How big? Fleet-sized, sir. Maybe bigger. Before Lee could respond, every communication device in the hall began ringing at once. Emergency signals filled the air. The great screens around the hall flickered to life, showing news feeds from across the galaxy. The Supreme Chancellor's aide ran to the podium and whispered something urgent in his ear. The ancient being's expression changed from celebration to terror. Citizens of the galaxy, the Chancellor announced, his voice shaking. We have just received word that a Vorthak fleet has appeared in the Sol system. They are surrounding Earth and demanding humanity's immediate surrender. The hall erupted in confused voices. Ambassador Park stood frozen at her table, her face pale with shock. Lee felt his blood turn cold. Dr. Kim had been right. The Vorthak had been planning this for months. And now Earth, humanity's homeworld, was under siege. The peaceful celebration had just become a war council. And after 800 years of galactic peace, it looked like the violence was about to begin again. The emergency council meeting started within an hour. Captain Lee Dongwook sat in the observer section, while Ambassador Park So-min took her place at the main table. The great hall that had been filled with celebration was now cold and quiet. Supreme Chancellor Vorthex activated the main display. The image showed Earth surrounded by dark shapes. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The Vorthak fleet numbers approximately 10,000 ships, announced the military advisor, a tall being from the warrior species Krenth. They have positioned themselves around Earth and all human colonies in the Sol system. No ships are being allowed to leave or enter. Ambassador Park stood up. What are their demands? The Chancellor touched his communication device. A deep, harsh voice filled the room, speaking in the Vorthak language. The translation appeared on screens around the hall. People of the galaxy hear the words of General Vex Morthan, Supreme War Leader of the Vorthak Empire. The time of human interference is over. For too long, these weak creatures have meddled in the affairs of strong species. They have made the galaxy soft with their talk of peace and cooperation. The voice paused, and the display showed a Vorthak commander on the bridge of a massive warship. He was tall and covered in dark armor with red eyes that seemed to glow. Humanity has 48 hours to surrender completely. They will dissolve all diplomatic missions. They will recall all human ships. They will become a client species under Vorthak rule. If they refuse, Earth will be destroyed and every human in the galaxy will be hunted down. The message ended. Silence filled the council hall. Ambassador Park's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. We need to respond immediately. Open diplomatic channels. There must be something they want that we can negotiate. Negotiate? The Krenth military advisor stood up. Ambassador Park, they have 10,000 ships. The entire human defense fleet has maybe 200 vessels. This isn't a negotiation. This is an execution. There's always another way, Park insisted. We've solved every problem through talking. We can solve this one too. Lee watched from his seat as the council debated. Some species wanted to help humanity. Others seemed afraid of the Vorthak fleet. A few even suggested that maybe humanity should just surrender for the good of galactic peace. Dr. Kim Tae-ho appeared next to Lee's seat. Captain, I'm getting reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The Vorthak haven't just surrounded Earth. They have fleets moving toward every major human colony. How many ships total? Best estimate? Over 50,000. Sir, this isn't just an attack on Earth. They're planning to wipe out humanity completely. The council session continued for 6 hours. Ambassador Park tried everything she could think of. She offered trade deals. She promised that humanity would withdraw from certain sectors. She even offered to personally guarantee that humans would stop their diplomatic activities. Each offer was rejected. General Vex Morthen's response was always the same: complete surrender or total destruction. As the hours passed, the display showed more Vorthak ships arriving in the Sol system. Earth's small defense fleet, commanded by Admiral Ko Myung-soo, positioned itself between the enemy and the planet. 200 human ships against 10,000 Vorthak vessels. Admiral Ko is requesting instructions, reported the communication officer. Ambassador Park closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, Lee could see tears. Tell him to prepare for defensive action only. No aggressive moves. Keep trying to establish communication with the Vorthak commander. The Supreme Chancellor stood up. Ambassador Park, the Council has reached a decision. We cannot risk a galactic war over one species. If you cannot reach an agreement with the Vorthak in the next 12 hours, the Council will officially recognize Vorthak authority over human space. Park stared at him. You're abandoning us? We're trying to save the galaxy from another war. Sometimes difficult choices must be made. Lee felt anger rise in his chest. After 60 years of helping other species, humanity was being thrown away to save everyone else from having to fight. The next morning brought terrible news. The Vorthak had moved closer to Earth's moon, Luna, where 2.3 million people lived in the colony cities. Most of them were civilians. Many were children being treated at the galaxy's largest medical center for young beings from dozens of different species. Ambassador Park was on Luna Colony now, having taken a fast shuttle from Nexus Station. She was in the main communication center, still trying to reach some kind of agreement with General Vex Morthen. General, Luna Colony is a medical facility, she said into the communication device. There are sick children here from 23 different species. If you must make an example, choose a military target. Vex Morthen's face appeared on the screen. His red eyes showed no emotion. You still do not understand, human. We are not making an example. We are removing an infection from the galaxy. Your species spreads weakness wherever it goes. You make warriors soft with your talk of peace. These are children, General. Innocent children. They will grow up to spread your poison. Better to end them now. The communication cut out. Within minutes, Vorthak ships began moving toward Luna Colony. Dr. Kim Tae-ho was in the medical center when the attack began. He was helping evacuate patients when the first energy beams hit the outer city domes. The lights went out and emergency power kicked in. All medical staff to evacuation stations, came the announcement. This is not a drill. Kim ran through the corridors helping to move patients who couldn't walk on their own. Many of them were alien children who had come to Luna for treatments that weren't available on their homeworlds. A small Althari girl no more than 5 years old grabbed his hand as explosions shook the building. Dr. Kim, are the bad people going to hurt us? She asked in her soft musical voice. No, little one, he lied. We're going to get you somewhere safe, but there was nowhere safe. The Vorthak ship surrounded the colony completely. They weren't trying to capture it quickly. They were destroying it slowly, piece by piece, broadcasting the destruction across the galaxy as a warning to anyone who might think of helping humanity. Ambassador Park So-min was in the Central Command Center when she got the news that her daughter, Min-seo, was trapped in one of the outer medical facilities. Park had brought her daughter to Luna for a routine medical conference. Now the building was cut off by the attack. I have to go get her, Park told the colony commander. Ma'am, it's too dangerous. The Vorthak are targeting anything that moves. Park was already putting on an emergency suit. She's just 16. She's probably terrified. The colony commander Lee Sang-ho grabbed her arm. Ambassador, if you die, who will speak for humanity? Who will try to stop this? Park stopped. The man was right. Her duty was to her entire species, not just to her daughter. But knowing that didn't make it hurt less. Captain Lee Dong-wook watched the destruction from his ship's bridge. The Harmony was still docked at Nexus Station, unable to help. The Vorthak had made it clear that any ship that tried to interfere would be destroyed immediately. The attack on Luna Colony took 3 days. The Vorthak didn't just destroy the buildings. They targeted specific areas to cause maximum psychological damage. The children's hospital was hit first. The cultural center, where human children had built art projects as gifts to alien visitors, was destroyed next. The monument to galactic peace, built by Earth's young people as a symbol of friendship, was vaporized completely. Dr. Kim Tae-ho died on the second day. He was helping to evacuate alien children from a collapsing medical building when a Vorthak energy beam brought down the roof. His last radio message was heard across the human communication network. "Tell their families we tried to save them all. Tell them we're sorry we failed." Ambassador Park's daughter, Min Seo, died on the third day when the Vorthak finally destroyed the outer medical complex. Her last message to her mother was sent through the colony's emergency system. "Mom, the alien children here are scared. I'm staying with them so they won't be alone. I love you." When the attack finally ended, Luna Colony was gone. 2.3 million beings were dead. Among them were not just humans, but children and medical staff from dozens of different species who had come there for help. The galaxy watched in horror, but no one acted. The Galactic Council sent official statements of condolence, but refused to send military aid. Some species even suggested that humanity should surrender now to prevent more civilian casualties. Commander Choi, Yujin, was watching the news feeds from her office in the Terran Defense Headquarters on Earth. She had been trying to get permission to activate humanity's emergency protocols for months, but the civilian government kept refusing. "We don't want to appear aggressive," they said. Now, as she watched the last images from Luna Colony, her communication device buzzed. It was Ambassador Park calling from the ruins of the colony. "Commander Choi." Park's voice was different now, colder, harder. "I'm sending you new orders. Activate Protocol Omega." "Ma'am, are you sure?" "Once we start that, there's no going back." There was a long pause. When Ambassador Park spoke again, her voice carried a tone that no one in the galaxy had ever heard from a human before. "They wanted to see what happens when you infuriate the humans, Commander. It's time to show them." Commander Choi Yu-jin walked through the underground corridors beneath the Terran Defense Headquarters. These levels didn't exist on any official building plans. Most humans didn't even know they were there. Protocol Omega had been created 50 years ago, when humanity first joined the galactic community. The human government had made a choice then. They would pursue peace, but they would also be ready if peace failed. "Verification required," said the computer voice as Yujin approached the sealed door. "Commander Choi Yu-jin. Authorization Omega 77 Alpha." Voice print confirmed. "Genetic scan required." Yujin placed her hand on the scanner. Red light swept across her palm. "Welcome to Protocol Omega Command. Commander Choi. Please note that activation of these systems will be logged and reported to Earth Central Command." "Earth Central Command is gone," Yujin said quietly. "The Vorthak destroyed the building 6 hours ago." The massive door slid open. Behind it was a command center larger than anything on the surface levels. Dozens of humans in military uniforms were already at workstations. These were the people who had spent decades preparing for the day that humanity's peaceful reputation would fail to protect them. Admiral Yoon Sang-wook stood in the center of the command room. He was a thin man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp and focused. "Commander, I've been waiting for this call for 30 years. I just wish it had never come. How ready are we, Admiral? See for yourself." Yoon activated the main display. Instead of showing Earth surrounded by enemy ships, it showed something that had been hidden from the galaxy for decades. Dots of light appeared throughout human space. Thousands of them, the Ghost Fleet, Yoon explained. 50,000 ships hidden in asteroid fields, nebulae, and dead systems. The civilian government told the galaxy we only had 200 military vessels. That was technically true. We only had 200 ships in active service. The rest were in storage. Yujin stared at the display. "How did we keep this secret?" "We built them in hidden shipyards using materials officially listed for civilian construction. Every human colony has been contributing to this project. Mining ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports. Half of them have weapon systems and military-grade engines that can be activated when needed." Another officer, General Nam Hee-sun, joined them at the display. "It's not just ships, Commander. Our entire industrial system was designed for rapid military conversion. Every factory, every power plant, every research facility has dual purposes." Yujin felt a chill. "The galaxy thinks we're peaceful farmers and diplomats." "We are peaceful," Admiral Yoon said. "We chose to be peaceful. But we learned from Earth's history. Peace works when everyone wants peace. When someone chooses war, you need to be ready to give them more war than they can handle. The command center was buzzing with activity. Officers were sending coded messages to human colonies throughout the galaxy. In response, the hidden fleet was coming online. Captain Song Yunbi was on the bridge of the Phantom Wind when the activation order came through. Her ship had been listed in official records as a deep space research vessel. That was partly true, it did research. It researched how to destroy enemy ships without being seen. All stations report readiness, Song commanded. Stealth systems online, reported her tactical officer. We're invisible to all known sensor types. Weapons ready. Enhanced plasma cannons charged and targeted. Engine modifications complete. We now have 3 times our official speed rating. Song looked at her crew. They were young, but they had trained for this moment their entire careers. You all know what the Vorthak did to Luna Colony. They killed children from dozens of species just to make a point. Today we make our own point. The Phantom Wind was one of 500 stealth ships that the galaxy didn't know existed. Within hours, they were moving toward Vorthak positions throughout the galaxy. Dr. Jang Ki-young stood in his laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice. Officially, he was researching new medical technologies. The galaxy knew him as the human scientist who had developed cures for several alien diseases. What the galaxy didn't know was that every medical breakthrough had a military application. The same technology that could heal could also destroy. The nanobots that repaired tissue damage could be programmed to cause it. The energy fields that powered medical scanners could overload enemy ship systems. Sir, we're getting the activation codes, his assistant reported. Then it's time, Ki-young said. He had hoped this day would never come. He had spent years creating weapons that he prayed would never be used. Release everything. All research, all technologies, all weapon systems. Send the data to every human military commander. Within minutes, technology that had been classified for decades was being transmitted across human space. Plasma weapons that could cut through any known armor. Defensive shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. Computer viruses that could take control of enemy ship systems. But the most important transmissions were going to special facilities hidden throughout human territory. Colonel Han Ji-ho felt the needle slide into his arm. Around him, 5,000 other volunteers were getting the same injection. The Valkyrie enhancement program had been theoretical until now. Human genetic modification that would create soldiers capable of things that no other species could match. How do you feel, Colonel? Asked the medical technician. Han flexed his hands. He could feel his strength increasing. His vision was becoming sharper. His reflexes were getting faster. Like I could take on a Vorthak battle cruiser with my bare hands. That's not recommended, sir. But you probably could survive the attempt. The enhancement program had been developed using the same medical technology that humanity shared freely with other species. What they didn't share was that the technology could also push human biology far beyond its normal limits. 5,000 enhanced soldiers would be ready for combat within 24 hours. They would be stronger, faster, and smarter than any warrior species in the galaxy, and they would be very, very angry about what happened to Luna Colony. Captain Lee Dong-wook was still on Nexus Station when the first reports started coming in. Vorthak ships were disappearing throughout the galaxy. Not destroyed in battle, they were simply vanishing from sensors without any distress calls. Captain, his communications officer, called out, "We're getting strange reports from the Keth sector. A Vorthak supply convoy just stopped responding to communication." Stopped responding? Sir, according to the automated tracking systems, the ships are still there. But they're not moving. And they're not answering calls from Vorthak Command. Lee had a feeling he knew what was happening. The human ships were starting to move. At Nexus Station's communication center, Ambassador Park So-min was receiving reports from across human space. The hidden military systems were coming online faster than anyone had expected. "Ma'am, Admiral Yoon reports the Ghost Fleet will be fully operational within 18 hours, her aide reported. And the Vorthak response? "They're confused, ma'am. Their ships are reporting equipment failures, navigation problems, and communication blackouts. Some of their commanders are claiming they're under attack, but they can't see any enemy vessels." Park nodded. The stealth ships were doing their job. "There's something else, ma'am. We're getting communication requests from other species. The Althari Republic wants to open secret negotiations. The Zalani Collective is offering to share intelligence about Vorthak fleet movements. They want to help now. It seems that watching the Luna colony massacre changed some minds. Also, our hidden fleet has impressed a few people. The military advisors from several species are asking how humanity kept 50,000 ships secret for 30 years. Park looked out the window at the galaxy beyond. For 60 years, humanity had worked to earn respect through peace and cooperation. In 3 days, the Vorthak had destroyed all of that work. But maybe, Park thought, it was time for the galaxy to learn a different kind of respect for humanity. "Send a message to Admiral Yoon," she said. "Tell him to begin Phase 2. Phase 2, ma'am? It's time to show the Vorthak what human soldiers can do when they're not trying to be peaceful." On the bridge of his flagship, General Vex Morthen was growing frustrated. His fleet around Earth was still strong, but his forces throughout the galaxy were reporting problems. Ships were losing power. Communication systems were failing. Some vessels were even reporting that their own computers were working against them. "War leader," his tactical officer called out, "we're detecting strange energy readings throughout human space. It's like their entire territory just came alive." "Impossible. We destroyed their main military bases. Intelligence reports confirm they only had 200 ships total." "Sir, we're now detecting over 40,000 human vessels. They're appearing on sensors throughout the galaxy." Vex Morthen felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. That can't be right. "Run the scans again. Sir, the numbers keep growing. We're also getting reports that some of our ships are being boarded by human soldiers. But that's impossible. Humans are weak. They avoid physical combat." The general stared at the tactical display. Red dots representing Vorthak ships were disappearing one by one, while blue dots representing human vessels were multiplying rapidly. "Get me a communication link to the human commander," he ordered. The first major battle happened at the Kepler defense line, where the Vorthak had positioned 3,000 ships to block human reinforcements from reaching Earth. Admiral Ko Myung-soo arrived with 500 human vessels, ships that had been cargo, haulers and research vessels just days before. General Vex Morthen watched the battle from his flagship near Earth. He expected to see the humans destroyed quickly. Instead, he watched his own forces disappear from the tactical display. "War leader, our ships at Kepler are not responding," his tactical officer reported. "What do you mean not responding?" "Sir, they're gone. All 3,000 ships. The human force is intact and moving toward our position." Vex Morthen stared at the display. 3,000 Vorthak warships destroyed by 500 human vessels, with no human losses at all. How is that possible? His intelligence officer, a younger Vorthak named Tor Vexen, looked pale. "Sir, we may have made an error in our assessment of human military capabilities." "What kind of error?" "A very large one, war leader." Across the galaxy, the story was the same. Human ships appeared where Vorthak commanders expected empty space. Vorthak vessels lost power, weapons and life support systems without any visible damage. Enemy soldiers boarded Vorthak ships and captured them without firing a shot. The enhanced human soldiers were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Colonel Han Ji-ho led a boarding action against a Vorthak battlecruiser. His team of 12 soldiers defeated 300 Vorthak warriors in hand-to-hand combat. "How are they so strong?" asked the captured Vorthak commander. "We learned from our mistakes," Han replied. "On Earth we used to fight each other. Now we fight for each other. It makes a difference." Captain Song Yunbi's stealth ship, the Phantom Wind, had destroyed 20 Vorthak vessels without being detected even once. Her crew used new weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Energy beams that could cut through any armor, and computer viruses that made enemy ships attack each other. "Captain, we're getting a communication from the Vorthak flagship," her communications officer reported. "Put it through." General Vex Morthen's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and confused. "Human captain, I wish to discuss terms." "I'm listening," Song replied. "What do you want? Territory? Resources?" "We can negotiate." Song thought about the alien children who had died on Luna Colony, Dr. Kim Tae-ho trying to save them, Ambassador Park's daughter staying with the frightened patients until the end. "What we want, General, is for you to understand something. You attacked the wrong species. The communication ended." The Phantom Wind disappeared back into the darkness, hunting for more targets. At Nexus Station, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The Supreme Chancellor looked overwhelmed. As reports came in from across the galaxy, the humans now control 17 star systems that were under Vorthak occupation just yesterday, the military advisor reported. Vorthak losses are estimated at over 30,000 ships. Human losses are 0. Ambassador Park So-min sat at the human delegation table. She looked different than she had a week ago. Harder, colder. The loss of her daughter had changed her, but so had something else. The galaxy had abandoned humanity when the Vorthak attacked. Now they wanted help dealing with the results. Ambassador Park, the Chancellor said, the Council would like to offer mediation services to help resolve this conflict. Mediation? Park's voice was calm, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. Where was the Council when the Vorthak were bombing hospitals? Where was mediation when alien children were dying on Luna Colony? We regret the loss of life, but you regret nothing, Park interrupted. You are willing to let humanity be wiped out to avoid inconveniencing yourselves. Now that you see we can fight back, you want to be involved. The Chancellor looked uncomfortable. The Council believes that escalation serves no one's interests. The Council is wrong. Park stood up. This war ends when the Vorthak surrender unconditionally. Until then, humanity will continue to remind the galaxy why you should never infuriate the humans. Behind the scenes, other species were starting to choose sides. The Althari Republic had begun secretly sharing intelligence with human forces. The Zelani Collective was allowing human ships to use their spaceports for repairs and resupply. But some species were still afraid to act. The Merchant Guild worried about trade disruptions. The Nexian Consortium didn't want to anger whoever won the war. Dr. Jang Ki-young was working in his laboratory when his assistant brought him disturbing news. Sir, we've intercepted Vorthak communications. They're planning something called Final Protocol. Ki-young looked at the decoded messages. His face went pale. They're going to use planet killers, star destroyers. They think if they can't win the war, they'll end it by destroying all human worlds. Can they do that? Unfortunately, yes. The Vorthak have been building superweapons in secret for decades. We knew about some of them, but not all. Ki-young began working on his computer, sending urgent messages to human military commanders. If the Vorthak were willing to destroy entire star systems, humanity would have to respond with even more devastating force. The turning point came at the Battle of Helix Nebula. General Vex Morthan had gathered the remaining Vorthak fleet, over 60,000 ships, for one massive assault on the human home system. But Admiral Yoon Sang-wook was waiting with the entire human ghost fleet. The battle was visible from dozens of star systems as energy beams lit up the nebula like fireworks. But it wasn't really a battle, it was a demonstration. Human ships moved like they were dancing, avoiding Vorthak weapons while destroying enemy vessels with precision strikes. Captain Lee Dong-wook, now commanding a human battlecruiser called the New Luna, led a squadron through the heart of the Vorthak formation. His ship had been built in secret and named after the destroyed colony. Every weapon on board was dedicated to the memory of the people who died there. Target their command ship, Lee ordered. Time to end this. The New Luna and 12 other human ships surrounded General Vex Morthan's flagship. Instead of destroying it, they used capture beams to disable its engines and weapons. Boarding teams prepare for assault, Lee announced. Colonel Han Ji-ho led the boarding party. His enhanced soldiers moved through the Vorthak ship like shadows, stunning enemies instead of killing them. Within 30 minutes, they had captured the bridge. General Vex Morthan sat in his command chair, surrounded by human soldiers. He looked at Colonel Han with something like respect. You fight well for a peaceful species, the Vorthak general said. We're not peaceful, Han replied. We're patient. There's a difference. We tried peace with you. You chose war. Now you see what human war looks like. What happens now? Now you surrender. All Vorthak forces everywhere in the galaxy. Complete surrender. And if I refuse? Colonel Han gestured toward the windows. Outside, they could see the remains of the Vorthak fleet. Thousands of disabled ships floating in space. Human vessels moved among them, rescuing survivors and providing medical aid. General, you attacked our hospitals. You killed our children. You destroyed our colonies. And we're still trying to save your people. Do you really want to see what happens if we stop being merciful? General Vex Morthan looked at the tactical displays showing the complete defeat of his forces. In 3 weeks, humanity had gone from apparent helplessness to total victory. His mighty empire had been crushed by a species the galaxy thought was weak. I surrender, he said quietly. The war was over. But its effects would change the galaxy forever. From his prison cell on Nexus Station, General Vex Morthan was interviewed by Galactic News Services. They wanted to understand how the mighty Vorthak Empire had been defeated so completely. "We made a simple mistake," he told the reporters. "We thought human peace meant human weakness. We were wrong." "What do you mean?" "Humans aren't peaceful because they can't fight. They're peaceful because they're too good at fighting. They learned to control their violent nature, but they never lost it. When you force them to fight, you discover that they're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Do you regret attacking humanity?" Vex Morthan looked out the window of his cell toward the space where Luna Colony used to be. A new station was being built there, a memorial to the people who died. "I regret many things," he said. "But mostly I regret that my people will be remembered as the species that was stupid enough to break the oldest rule in the galaxy." "What rule is that?" "Never infuriate the humans." Judge Lee Sujin looked out at the packed courtroom on Nexus Station. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had come to watch the war crimes trials. The defendants sat in a long row, Vorthak military leaders who had participated in the attack on Luna Colony and other human civilian targets. "General Vex Morthan," Judge Lee said, her voice calm and professional, "you stand accused of ordering the deliberate targeting of civilian populations, the destruction of medical facilities, and the murder of non-combatants, including children from 23 different species. How do you plead?" The former Vorthak war leader stood up slowly. He looked older than he had just months ago. "I plead guilty to all charges." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Many had expected him to claim he was following orders, or that the attacks were justified military actions. "You understand that this plea carries a sentence of life imprisonment?" Judge Lee asked. "I understand. I also understand that I deserve worse." Judge Lee nodded. "Before sentencing, do you wish to make a statement?" Vex Morthan looked toward the section where human survivors sat. Ambassador Park So-min was there, along with families of those who had died on Luna Colony. "I want the galaxy to understand what we learned too late," he said. "Humans are not weak because they choose peace. They are the strongest species in the galaxy because they choose peace. When you force them to abandon that choice, you face the consequences of 800 years of controlled violence being released at once." He paused, looking directly at Ambassador Park. "We killed your daughter and thousands of other innocents because we were afraid of human influence in the galaxy. We were right to be afraid, but for the wrong reasons. We should have feared what would happen if we made humanity our enemy." The trial continued for weeks. One by one, Vorthak commanders testified about their roles in the attacks. But something unexpected happened during the proceedings. Many of them began to understand why they had lost the war so completely. Commander Tor Vexen, who had served under General Vex Morthan, explained to the court, "We studied human military history before the attack. We saw their wars on Earth and thought we understood their capabilities. But we misunderstood everything." "How so?" asked the prosecutor. "Human wars on Earth were humans fighting other humans, equals fighting equals. When they joined the galactic community, they spent decades learning how to fight every other species in the galaxy. They studied our weaknesses, our technologies, our tactics. They prepared for war with all of us while pretending to pursue peace with all of us." "Are you saying the humans planned this war?" "No," Tor said firmly. "They planned to prevent this war. Every human diplomatic success, every peaceful resolution they achieved, was them trying to avoid having to use what they had prepared. We forced them to stop trying." In another part of Nexus Station, Admiral Yoon Sang-wook was meeting with military commanders from dozens of species. The Galactic Defense Council was being reformed, with humans taking a leading role for the first time. "Admiral," said the Krenth military advisor, "many species want to understand how humanity maintained such military readiness while appearing peaceful." Yoon smiled sadly. "We learned from our own history. On Earth we fought terrible wars because we were never prepared for peace to fail. When we joined the galaxy, we decided to prepare for war while working for peace. Every human colony contributed resources. Every human family understood that their peaceful lives depended on others being ready to fight. But the secrecy, how did you keep it from your own people? We didn't. Every human knew about the Ghost Fleet. Every human understood that our peaceful reputation was maintained by our hidden strength. The galaxy knew us as diplomats and scientists, but we never forgot that we were also soldiers." The reformed Galactic Defense Council, established new rules for maintaining peace. The new accords had stronger enforcement mechanisms and a multinational military force to back them up. But the biggest change was in how other species viewed humanity. Captain Song Yunbi, now promoted to admiral, commanded the new Galactic Defense Fleet flagship. The ship was called Luna's Promise and was crewed by beings from a dozen different species. Admiral, her Althari tactical officer reported, "We're receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking a civilian convoy." "Set course for the distress signal," Song ordered. "Maximum speed." As the ship jumped to hyperspace, her crew prepared for combat with the efficiency that had made the human military legendary throughout the galaxy. But they also prepared medical teams and rescue equipment, because stopping the attack was only the first step. Helping the victims was just as important. The Luna's Promise arrived to find 6 pirate ships attacking a merchant convoy. The battle was over in minutes. The human-designed weapons disabled the pirate vessels without destroying them, and the enhanced human soldiers boarded each ship to capture the crews alive. "Pirate Commander," Admiral Song said over the communication system, "you and your crews are under arrest. You will receive fair trials and medical treatment. Your victims will be safely escorted to their destination." The pirate commander, a member of a species that had once been allies of the Vorthak, sounded confused. "Why don't you just destroy us?" "That's what warriors do to pirates." "Because we're not warriors," Song replied. "We're protectors." "There's a difference." Back on Earth, the memorial to Luna Colony was finally completed. It stood where the old colony had been, a beautiful structure made from materials contributed by every species in the galaxy. At its center was a garden where plants from hundreds of worlds grew together. Ambassador Park So-min stood before the memorial with her granddaughter Min Jung, who had been born after the war ended. The little girl looked up at the names carved into the memorial wall, humans and aliens who had died together. "Grandmother, why are there so many different names?" Min Jung asked. "Because when the bad people attacked us, they hurt children from many worlds who had come here for help," Park explained. "We remember them all. Are the bad people gone now?" Park thought about General Vex Morthan, serving his life sentence in a comfortable prison where he spent his time writing about the mistakes that had led to the war. She thought about the other Vorthak who had been given second chances and were now working to rebuild their society. "The bad people learned to be better," she said, "and we learned that sometimes being good means being ready to fight very hard to protect the people you love." Commander Choi Yu-jin, now Director General of Galactic Defense, stood at her office window looking out at Earth's orbital defense stations. They were no longer hidden. The galaxy now knew exactly how strong humanity was. But they were also no longer just human installations. Ships and personnel from dozens of species worked together to maintain galactic peace. Her aide, Lieutenant Park Dong-min, brought her the daily security report. "Ma'am, the galaxy has now gone 6 months without any major conflicts. Pirates are down 60%. Border disputes are being resolved through negotiation." "Good," Yu-jin said. "But stay alert. Peace requires constant vigilance. Do you think anyone will be foolish enough to challenge the new order?" Yu-jin thought about that question. The galaxy had learned what happened when you infuriated the humans. But more importantly, they had learned what happened when humans had something worth protecting. "I hope not, Lieutenant. But if they do, they'll discover that we've learned some new things since the Vorthak War. Such as, we've learned that the best way to keep peace isn't just to be strong enough to win wars. It's to be good enough that other species want to fight beside you instead of against you." 50 years later, the galaxy had entered what historians called the Golden Age of Cooperation. Trade flourished between species. Scientific discoveries were shared freely. Cultural exchanges had created art and music that no single species could have imagined. But in the museums and schools throughout the galaxy, the story of the Vorthak War was taught to every young being. They learned about Luna Colony. They learned about Dr. Kim Tai-ho and Minseo Park and the thousands of others who died. They learned about the sleeping giant that had awakened when pushed too far. And they learned the most important lesson of all. Peace isn't the absence of the ability to fight. Peace is the choice not to use that ability unless you absolutely must. The memorial at Luna Colony bore an inscription in every language spoken in the galaxy. "Here lie the children of many worlds who died as one family. Their sacrifice taught us that the greatest strength is not in the weapons we can build, but in the bonds we choose to make. Never forget. Never again. Below that, in smaller letters, was a warning that every species in the galaxy had learned by heart. Remember always the oldest rule in the galaxy: never infuriate the humans. Not because they are the most dangerous when angry, but because they are the most dangerous when they choose to forgive. For a human's mercy is more terrifying to the wicked than their wrath, and more precious to the innocent than their protection. The humans had kept their promise. They had built a galaxy where children of all species could grow up safely, but they had also made sure that anyone who threatened that safety would face the full consequences of breaking the oldest rule in the galaxy. The sleeping giant would protect the peace. But it would never sleep deeply again.